So you have an amazing career and now you're doing a lot of work with lupus awareness. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, to give you a little background on lupus and my involvement and how it's affected my life, my mother actually has lupus, and she's been fighting it since before I was born. Through this entire journey, she's kind of reflected back, and she thinks that like she actually had her first flare when she was 16 years old. To give your viewers a little background on lupus, lupus is actually an autoimmune disease where your immune system basically attacks healthy organs and tissues, and it definitely can be fatal. There's no cases alike. Um, it can attack anything from your skin to vital organs. Varies in in severity, and also takes really long time to diagnose. The average is 6 years to get a lupus diagnosis. It affects mostly minority women, but it does affect a small number of men. I think it's about 10% of all cases are men. Um, it's a worldwide, million, like they estimate about 5 million people have it worldwide based on the length of time it takes to get diagnosed and how often people actually get misdiagnosed. I would assume that number, I think it's safe to say that it's significantly higher. Um, and unfortunately, it's one of those diseases that a lot of people have heard the name lupus, but they've never really, they don't know the effects. They've never taken the time to research to see what it actually does. And um, I've kind of, through my journey of helping my mother and dealing with my mother's lupus case for my entire life, and then being involved in the entertainment industry, I kind of decided a few years ago that I really wanted to help the situation because I felt there was really uh, a giant hole where there should be that should be filled with lupus awareness. And I just kind of wanted to use my creative talents to kind of put together a story that was both educational and entertaining. And I came up with my production and team, and I came up with the idea for Standing Eight, which turned out to be an award-winning short film about a boxer who gets diagnosed with lupus. So it's kind of like everything in a nutshell, I think, right? As far as how the my particular journey and trying to actively do something to help the lupus community. And I think a lot of, if you think about tackling a disease, especially one that hasn't gotten that coverage, that media coverage, I think really at the core you need to increase awareness, because increasing awareness leads to increased dollars for research, which eventually should lead to a cure or better treatments, et cetera, et cetera. So I think really the battle, really, yes, you need to fight it on multiple fronts, but I think awareness just needs to keep growing and growing and growing so that it gets more into the public consciousness.
It's very sad because I have family members with lupus too, and it's scary. And like you said, no two cases are alike, so
Yeah,
you don't know quite what you're looking for, and like every symptom is different. So I completely understand.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people when they get the blood test, it's either inconclusive. If they're not in a flare up, it becomes negative. Do you think that's one of the challenges of people getting diagnosed?
Yeah, I think there's a company called Exogen. They're a diagnostic company, and they developed a standalone test for lupus. I think what's happened is, because they're a relatively new company and it's a relatively new product, that a lot of rheumatologists aren't even aware that it exists. So it's still, I think it still traces back to if there is a product in which you can literally take a test and not only know what type of lupus you have, but how active it is in your system. I think it's really important for that product to be readily available, and you need to have awareness of that product to get people diagnosed significantly quicker instead of doing a gamut of tests and then looking at symptoms. Because oftentimes I think if doctors are looking at, there's so many crossover symptoms, like I think I've known people that got misdiagnosed with arthritis, right, which joint pain, etc. So they think that you have arthritis, carpal tunnel. Um, some people that have like the skin lesions, they think eczema or whatever. So there's always, because there's the symptoms like are basically imitators of other diseases. I think it's really important to have like for rheumatologists especially and people in the medical community to know that there actually is a standalone test for lupus that can get you those answers really quickly instead of trying to to judge based on these blood tests and looking at white blood cell counts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is hope on that side of it, but again, it falls back into increasing awareness for having especially like a really important diagnostic tool like the Exogen Advice test.
Exactly. Well, now thank you for making us aware of that because there's so many people that need it, and hopefully more people can get diagnosed and hopefully, knock wood, get better. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad about that. Now, do you work with this company or is this something that you're just aware of?
Well, I actually toured their facility in 20, I think early pre-pandemic 2020, I believe. I got to go. They had a luncheon, and I actually met the CEO at an event through the Lupus Foundation of America. Um, and in the lupus community, they kind of they were aware. A lot of people were aware of Standing Eight, the short film about the boxer, and we had put that out. So Ron Rocca, who is the CEO, he actually had heard of the film, and at the event we just kind of exchanged emails. And then I was out in LA working on a project, and Exogen reached out and said, "Hey, we have our annual luncheon. We'd love for you to come down and tour the facility." And I was able to go there with the Lupus Foundation and see the work that they were doing there. And it was, I mean, being, because I'm out there kind of fighting for awareness and whatnot, it was just really great to see an entire company that's devoted to basically fighting for the same cause as myself. So there was just like an instant crossover and an understanding and mutual goal that really kind of brought us together. I think I met them at an event for the Lupus Foundation in New York City. They had the Lupus Foundation rang the bell at the NASDAQ. So they had a bunch of people come in for that, and Exogen actually facilitated that. So that was another great awareness building event. And Exogen is really, really about building awareness. So it was very symbiotic kind of thing that they came together. And the thing that really stuck out to me, and it also sticks out to me about the Lupus Foundation of America, is that the people that are working there really care about what they do. It's not just a job to them. Like, they know that they're helping people. They know that they're helping people who are overlooked and haven't gotten the attention. And I think it's just like it's great to partner with organizations that really share the same goal as you. And I definitely think Lupus Foundation of America and Exogen are really out there fighting. And you can see in I think over the last few years, there's been some really great progress that has occurred. And I think that comes from the fact that the people working are so passionate about what they do.
Exactly. And I thank you for all you're doing with this because like I said before, it's really important that people are more aware of this. And tell me a little bit about this short film that you did.
Sure, sure. So it's funny, it was a long process. Writing the first draft wasn't a long process, but getting any film put out and completed independently is always a challenge. So first we came up with the story. We had to make a few little changes. We initially in the storyline, the boxer gets now the version that's out, the boxer Dusty Abrams is diagnosed with lupus and he's forced to retire. In my original draft, I had Dusty Abrams find out that he's sick but hide it from everyone. So it was a little bit of a change, but similar story arc of someone dealing with an illness, and we finished the first draft. Then of course it comes down to funding. So we went to Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform. And we ended up having two successful Kickstarter campaigns, one to get us through the initial production, and then we had another um, Kickstarter campaign to get us through post production. I think people, again, because it wasn't just like a project like, hey, we're doing this for fun or support our cool project. It was a project that people knew they were raising awareness, and they knew that my driving force behind it was the fact that my mother had it. And through the fundraising efforts, and at that time, Instagram had kind of just started to get big. It was like in 2015, Instagram was starting to blow up. I started interacting with a lot of people online on social media that were suffering from lupus, and I just met great people that were really suffering, and I realized through that, and going to my mother when I'm writing the draft and picking her brain, and kind of getting more into depth, like how she felt when she first diagnosed, and really delving deeper into what goes on when you're diagnosed with the disease, and it actually forces you to not be able to do what you originally set out to do with your life. And that's what happened to my mom. My mom had to give up getting her PhD. She had to give up teaching. She wasn't able to hold a full-time job at all because her energy level was just destroyed. uh, and I just drew from that, and based on all the people that I was meeting on social media and everything, I just realized that like it was really important to tell the story the right way. So after we completed it, we entered a slew of film festivals. We ran the film in festivals. It took us about a year for post production, realistically, from start to finish. And then you don't really want to submit to film festivals until the film is done, right? So then we submitted to film festivals, and there's a bit of delay because I did a lot of early festival submissions. And then in 2017, a lot of those festival submissions end up coming back, and you find out whether you get in the festivals or not. And we just started racking up film festival screenings, and we got in, but then we also started winning awards, and it was just like it started to, like, it was like every other festival we were getting nominated and we were winning, and it was just really great to see such a positive reception for the film within like the indie film community. uh and around that time in 2017, I ended up getting cast in Equalizer 2 opposite Denzel. And uh when I after we finished that production, we were still kind of we were rounding out our festival run, and I was coming to the point where I was thinking about what I wanted to do with the movie, right? Did I want to release it? How did I want it to kind of end up? And it was around the time that we had the red carpet event for Equalizer 2 in Hollywood, and I wore a lupus pin because I knew there was going to be a lot of media attention. So I just wanted to raise awareness for lupus. So on my tuxedo, I just wore this little lupus pin. And the pictures went out, and hashtags and whatever, and somehow the Lupus Foundation of America's social media team caught wind that I was wearing this lupus pin on the red carpet, and they reached out to me. And of course they did their research, and they said, we saw that you have this film about a boxer, and they said they would like to support it and promote it. And that kind of spurred me into that. First off, the idea that the Lupus Foundation sought me out, when in the back of my mind, when we were going through this whole process, I was like, I really want to be able to get a hold of like an organization that can use the movie, right, to help their cause. And then it ended up being like this full circle kismet thing where the Lupus Foundation ended up reaching out to me. And it was just a very, very emotional moment when I got that first email. uh Maggie Maloney, who works there, does a lot of their PR. And in the email that they sent to me, it was a cold contact. We had no crossover as far as contact. And they said, is there anything that we can do to help your mother? And I I got very emotional. It was very no one, for as long as I had been alive, I never heard anyone say is there anything that we can do for your mother? Not friends, not family, not, my mom wasn't one to wear it on her sleeve, but my parents, it was a very lonely journey for them. A lot of people turned their backs on my parents when my mom couldn't socialize anymore, when she couldn't make family events, when she couldn't do things like that. And it just became kind of like this. They were just on this journey alone, and it was just our family unit kind of dealing with it. And to have an organization of people that at the time were strangers to say, how can we help you? It was overwhelming. And I after that, I was sold. I was like, she's handling it, but I appreciate so much that someone would even say that. So long story short, we decided to proceed and work together. And that kind of, when I started talking to them, I thought, you know what, let me see if I can just go back. And I wasn't really involved with the editing that much in the first version of Standing Eight. We A lot of festivals have like time frame cutoffs. So
Right, right,
our first entry, like the first version of Standing Eight, was 20 minutes, which if we had gone longer than 20 minutes would have excluded us from a lot of short film based festivals. So I thought, you know what, there's a couple of scenes in there. I was like, maybe, I could tweak and see if we can, we can make a little adjustment. I was like, I know I've got, additional footage because we had to meet this tight time frame. And I went back and I sat down and I literally went through all of the dailies for the whole film, which I had never done before. And I realized that we needed to completely recut the movie from scratch. So, and it wasn't because the first one wasn't good. It was just that I realized that because of that time commitment, there were just a lot of moments that we needed to that we could expand on, because if I'm going to release it, I can make it longer. It doesn't matter. Right.
right,
Um,
exactly.
so I went back and I ended up doing a whole new edit of the film, a whole new round of color, a whole new round of sound. Uh, I ended up partnering with Jace Harley, who's an independent hip hop artist. He's incredibly talented. He donated his music to the cause. Um, he had a family member with lupus as well, and it had touched his family, and he just wanted to, help raise awareness. And he basically gave me his whole library and said, use whatever song you want, and even went as far as to got some musicians together and went to the studio and composed some original music for us to add some score elements. So the version that's out now, we ended up landing on Amazon and Vimeo. The version that's out now is slightly longer. It's about 4 minutes total longer. Plus, we have a much longer credit sequence because I thanked all of our Kickstarter backers and took the time to do that. Um, the film that's out now, I'm incredibly proud of it. I think it's gotten lovely feedback from lupus warriors who have seen the film. I think it just means something to the community to see themselves represented on screen. And uh, some of the messages that I received on social media about how people showed their mate for the first time, and their mate was like, I never understood how that you were going through this, I'm so sorry. And it just really it's really just like a good conversation starter for people, and kind of like a bridge to cross people over from the not knowing anything about the disease to kind of opening up the door and just giving them an idea of what someone goes through when they have lupus. And of course, it's a short film, so we didn't really get into the details of all the physical issues that Dusty was dealing with. It was mostly the psychological aspect of the fact that they pulled his boxing license and he couldn't fight anymore. This is a guy who fought his entire life and then literally is no longer allowed to do it. Uh, I had a great cast. I was really, I think we were able to really put something special together. And I think based on the feedback that I've gotten, it's resonated with the community. So that I can't ask for like a better way to have the film end up being used as a tool to raise awareness. I know support groups in the Lupus Foundation have used it. They've screened it at their support, group events. We held a premiere in Hollywood with the Lupus Foundation at ArcLight, and had a really nice event there. I ended up speaking, but the CEO, Steve Gibson, was there, and we did a Q&A. It was just a really, really, fantastic event. And I'm just so honored that they've been able to use the product in a positive way.
Incredible. And I think, again, thank you for all you do. And where can we follow you on social media so we can see more of what you do with the Lupus Foundation and in your career?
Sure, sure. My social media of choice is Kazy Toganos on Instagram. It's just at Kazy, KazyTauginas, on Instagram. And then I do have a Facebook fan page that we're not super active when we have, when we do nice interviews, we drop them on there so people can check in for some of the longer form stuff that I've done. And that's just official Kazy Toganos on Facebook.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate you.
No, well, thank you for having me.
No problem. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.